What's going on, everybody? Doc and Sloth finally back again with some Halo Wars 2 action, doing what we promised, and we were bringing the unit comparisons for the Jerome and the Arbiter DLC today. So we're going to just talk through. We've got the spreadsheet as we always do that will be linked in the description, so you can pause the video right here, go pull that up, take a look at it. You can save a copy yourself. Honestly, a really good spreadsheet just to give you some real baseline data for the units, for the new units, as well as the units that have been in the game for a while. This is specific to Blitz because that's just what we play, and it's the easiest way to test all this stuff. For those of you who've been around the channel, you know how we do this. For those of you that are new and maybe just watching this video, you can go back and watch our other unit comparisons, which are great. But essentially what we're doing is we're just going 1v1 into Blitz. We're calling these specific cards in. And then from there, we're just fighting them against units. We're taking their time to kill. And then we're getting some good stats at a glance for you guys, like health, energy cost. Really, the only thing we can't control here is our unit levels. So we're trying to keep them over the course of actually our series of video Sloth. They've been pretty even. We've had one or two units go up. But for the most part, we've stayed pretty level. So we'll kick it off. I'll throw it over to Sloth. He's going to start talking about the Arbiter for us, and then we'll hit on Jerome as soon as we roll through.
Yeah, and again, Blitz is just a great platform for us to be able to do this, to do it in as much of a vacuum as we can. So we begin with the Elite Enforcers, the infantry units particular to the Arbiter. Now, the damage output is not fantastic. The time to kill was 17.6 on an enemy Cyclops, I believe. And that's not fantastic. That's actually worse than the Elite Rangers, which are only 30 energy compared to the Elite Enforcers being 40. But the great thing about the Elite Enforcers is they have a shield at only 40 energy cost, and if you combine their shield health with their unit health, they have nearly triple the sustainability of the Elite Rangers and the Assault Elites. So to me, if you're going to go with an elite particular infantry unit, this is a really good one to go with. So 8 health, 4 health, and 4 shield. Combine that with just a slight dip in time to kill, which is honestly not bad. That just makes this a really solid unit that kind of verified what I thought I saw in game.
Yeah, real solid. The next one we'll talk about, there's only really a few units for each of these new leaders. So we'll probably roll through this pretty quick, but Prowling Grunts coming in, sitting at 40 energy, which is pretty comparable. Then the best thing about these guys is they have Cloak, but their time to kill at 24.1 seconds is actually not too bad. It's better than the standard Grunts, even a couple levels higher. So that's pretty good. Not quite obviously as good as the Grunt Mob, but there you're getting 3 different units, so pretty comparable. I like these guys. I think they're pretty well set at their energy cost and the damage that they're doing. We also tested Conduit of Rage out really quickly on these guys just to see. Against the Cyclops, it actually took the time to kill down to 20.6, so a little less than 4 seconds off. And this kind of convinced me that Conduit of Rage, especially if you could chain some of your leader powers together in Blitz, you're throwing some of your plasma bolts and stuff like that. Conduit of Rage actually kind of ticked up for me after doing this comparison, which I thought was pretty interesting. So we'll look at plasma bolt here in just a second, but I'll throw it back to Sloth to talk us through the Phantom really quickly.
The Phantom is the surprise for me. It seems really nice when you have infantry in it, and I don't know that I've really ever used it without at least having 1 infantry in it. So we looked at the numbers, just straight up Phantom, no infantry's housed, and then we also have fully loaded. Now, with no infantry in this thing, it took 62 seconds to kill a basic Cyclops. That is awful. That is terrible. But fully loaded with all 3 infantry housing spaces filled, this thing killed a Cyclops in 4.2 seconds. That is a gigantic turnaround. Fully loaded, this Phantom is a beast, and it's honestly enough to make me consider my starting army change, because the elite assault starting army starts you with a Phantom and 3 infantry units. So you can go through and just be an absolute monster with a fully loaded Phantom right off the bat.
Yeah, it's awesome. The only other thing I'll make note of this that I kind of tried to pick up on, and is interesting. This is the highest health air unit for the Banished at 8, which is a lot comparative to the Banshee and
Yeah.
the unstable Banshee. It sits at 80 energy, so it's very comparable. Um, but it has a lot of longevity too, so I thought that was really interesting. And then we're going to take a look at the piece de resistance for the Arbiter, which is the Arbiter himself. So I'll say initial impressions before we ran this, I thought he was pretty good. I liked, like Sloth said, preferably using him as the starting army. Generally impressed with him overall, actually, as far as a leader. A little squishy, though, I think, to be honest, after the most recent balance change updates. I can't for sure say what health and shield he had prior to the update, but it definitely feels like after the update that we just got a little bit ago, um, that he's just a little bit more squishy. His damage, though, comparables, quite good. He's taken down a Wolverine in about 10.8 seconds, a Cyclops at 8.6, a Nightingale. Obviously, you got to use the ability, his Rage ability, to be able to hit the air. He's taken that down in 7.3 seconds. The area that he struggled was hero on hero fights, which I think this is the area where the Honor Guard probably has him a little bit of an advantage just for the fact that the Honor Guard is going to sneak in and actually just get the damage. Here he took down Douglas. He needed healing, which again goes back to the fact that he was a little squishy. He took down Douglas in 36 seconds. We then ran him against Douglas with the Rage. I don't believe he really needed the healing at that point. He was able to take him down in 27.5 seconds. So I think the key for the Arbiter for me is if you're going to use him, you're going to call him in. He's great. He does good damage. He's pretty solid of a hero unit to call in, but you got to be using that rage ability smartly to get the damage in while you can, knock some of the units out, because he's only sitting at 12 health, which 5 shield and only 7 health. Again, makes him pretty squishy.
Yeah, and 12 is bad. It is not great. But I mean, I feel like he uses it well for the most part. That rage ability comes back often, so it's something that he really has to use. And I kind of feel like that harkens back to Halo Wars 1, when I mean the Arbiter without that ability was very meh.
Yep,
And I feel like that's not as much the case in this game. He's definitely viable without that ability, but if you want to thrive more so than survive, you got to use that ability.
absolutely. And I do applaud the fact as well that they made a melee unit, although it harkens back to Halo Wars 1. I'm so happy that they gave him the ability to hit air, because if they would have made another Banished leader not be able to attack the air, we would have had some problems. So, very good. The last thing we do want to just cover real quickly is obviously the Arbiter and even Jerome are pretty heavy on the leader powers. We did test the Plasma Bolt at its current level against the level 3 Cyclops, sitting at about 5 health, and it was able to take it down 3 health bars. So pretty good, just over half percentage. For 70 energy, I was actually pretty impressed with this ability. What would you say, Sloth?
Well, yeah, and it's obviously if you look at the energy consumption, you're not going to expect a ton of damage. And especially, I mean, the card itself says light but quick damage. But that's exactly it. That speed in which that it comes down after you call it in is really the key. That's this it's going to be a card that you can really use to kind of finish somebody off or really soften up a big unit, because 3 damage, kind of 3 health bars isn't fantastic, but 70 is not a ton of energy to invest in the grand scheme of things, and it happens very, very quickly. So if you call that in, they're probably not going to get out of the way of it unless you just called it in poorly.
Right, absolutely. I'm a fan of it. I think it definitely finds its place in many a decks, if you ask me. We ran the times for stasis and mass cloaking just to round the Arbiter out. Stasis came in at 5 seconds. The biggest, not surprise for me, but kind of the biggest thing that I realized was mass cloaking came in at being uh, cloaked for 32 seconds at level 2, which That's a long time, guys. And the fact that it hits everything is really awesome, and also gives a temporary siphon. This is a leader power that I probably my playstyle would not use, but I think now moving forward, I'm gonna have a hard time not putting it in there just because it is so good.
Yeah, I mean, 200 energy is a big investment, but like if you have ever used this thing in combat, you know what we're talking about. It's insane. Everybody cloaked on the whole map and getting the siphon ability too. It's not fair. It's crazy. Especially in those hero fights. If we wanted to just throw a little gamble in the hero fight, if Arbiter was having trouble killing Douglas on his own or whatever, we'd throw in a mass cloaking because it was just instant cloak, instant siphon, and that's a great time to use that in an actual firefight with hero units going at it. I mean, that's the way to ensure that your hero will win.
Absolutely, absolutely. Big fan of him. Big fan of the Arbor overall. Impression, strong leader. Obviously, some of the balance changes that just recently happened, although probably more specific to multiplayer. I think some of it bleeded over a little bit, but very impressed with the Phantom. Actually, pretty impressed with Elite Enforcers and the Grunts, and then rounding out with the hero unit and the powers. A fan of the Arbiter. I think they did a great job here, and now we have some good hard statistics that we can go off, and hopefully you guys can use to help build your decks. We'll jump right over into Jerome. Take a look at him. Um, we'll start off with the Mastodon, which I was honestly hoping, I think, to be a little bit better. I would prefer the Phantom, to be 100% honest, but not bad as far as what we're getting with the Mastodon. So 60 energy. Ours was level 3 when we tested it. It took a minute and a half, so 90 full seconds unloaded to take down the Reaver, which is really not very good. But when it was loaded up, I think we had regular Marines. What else do we have? A Cyclops in there, maybe 2 regular Marines and a Cyclops. And as usual, as you saw with the Phantom, when you throw units into it, that's where you get the value out of it. It took it down from a minute and 30 to 12.5 seconds to take that Reaver out. And at 60 energy with 8 health and 3 housing space, again, just a solid unit as long as you can get these things set up. They're essentially mobile bunkers, very reminiscent of the Sergeant Johnson DLC that we just got a little bit ago. And I'm a big fan of them.
Yeah, and it seems like the Mastodon is focused more on defense than the Phantom. Because I do believe they have the same amount of damage, but it's like a walking or a same amount of health, pardon me. But it's just like a walking tank. It's not a unit that you're gonna really blow the doors off with. I mean, even fully loaded, because I actually will note that 90 seconds to take down that Reaver, it actually didn't even take it out. We had the Mastodon unloaded, shooting the Reaver and being healed, and the Reaver, an anti-air unit, killed it after 90 seconds. So that 90 seconds isn't even getting the kill. That is awful. So it's very much the same coin as the Phantom. It's kind of the other side of that. It's much less effective. It's definitely, I think, more defensive in mind than the Phantom, because the Phantom just has all that mobility and is just going to have more firepower when it comes down to it. So I mean, the Mastodon's not bad, but when you compare it to the Phantom, you kind of are left wanting a little bit. Now, the Veteran Sniper is one that I've been really interested in seeing because he looks super cool, and I just was curious if it was worth the 110 energy. So as you may know, the standard sniper is 60. So we're looking at almost double the energy cost. Now the veteran sniper has 1 extra health bar and is still only capable of attacking infantry units. The time to kill, we're looking at about a 6-second difference. So the standard sniper takes about 20 seconds to kill a grunt unit, and a veteran sniper takes about 14. Is it worth an extra 50 energy? I don't know about that. I'm on the fence on that one because it just kind of benefit analysis. I don't know that that's worth all that extra energy.
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say no. I
Yeah.
I think since it's almost costing double, he really should With most veteran units, you see them basically cutting their time to kill in half or very close to it. This is just not the case. I think if he was closer to the 12-second kill mark, I think then you could justify it. But no extra ability, only one additional health bar. I think you're better off using just standard snipers because, to be honest, in a lot of instances, they're going to be a little situational. And I'd rather have a situational card at 60 energy than a situational card at 110. I just think there are better options. Now, it's a cool unit. I do like it. It's neat to see it come in, but because it's almost purely identical, and it's just slightly better at the attack for the energy cost. I'm not a fan of it. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I could agree.
We did take a quick look at the Trooper Nightingale, although we could not specifically kind of get some statistical data on how fast it was healing and all that kind of stuff. I did just want to throw it out there. It is 5 health bars, and you do have Last Stand 2 on this. This is a unit that 100% of the time I will be using over the standard Nightingale. I mean, you're talking only a 30 energy difference. The fact that you get Last Stand 2 with this, and the fact that you get a little bit extra health, it sold me on this. And this was probably minus Omega Team. This was the one unit I was the most excited for, just because they finally put Last Stand 2 onto something that like really needed Last Stand 2. I don't know how else to put that. Like they finally found a perfect fit for Last Stand. You obviously can't do it with an engineer because it's just a single life form, but those kinds of setups I think were absolutely awesome. Trooper Nightingales, I mean, Nightingales, you're getting in the fight, you want them to be in the fight, that you're going to lose them from time to time, and the fact that this drops in 2 units for you when that happens, it's just perfect. It's a great gameplay mechanic, and I think they really nailed it here, so use that one. We'll swap over to Omega Team. I'll let Sloth kick this one off. We got quite a few different people to talk about here.
Yeah, we've got 3 different options here. I think we'll toss them back and forth. In my deck build, if you did see that, if you haven't, I hate you. I'm just kidding. Do go check it out though. Kind of see what we're working with and all this stuff. That did take place before our unit comparison, so keep that in mind. But in that, I talked about how fun Omega Team is. And it is fun. It is a blast. I don't know why. It's just like rolling the die to get a really cool Spartan. Your 3 options, I will go over the first one, Mr. Leon, Spartan 011. He has the energy sword. He's the young man you see on the left. And he's kind of the Snake Eyes. He's what you don't want to get. He's good, don't get me wrong. But of the 3, he is definitely your weak link. So he has 22 seconds on a time to kill on a Wolverine, about 12 and a half on a Cyclops, and he can't hit air. Now we'll kind of compare and contrast those to the other units here in just a moment, but it's not fantastic. He does have the most health of any of the units of Omega Team, so that is kind of his silver lining.
Yep, absolutely. So I'll cover Robert, which is the one with the plasma cannon you're looking at on the far right of the group. And honestly, this is the one for me and Sloth. I think I'm speaking here, but it really comes down between Robert and August that we'll talk about here in a second. As far as the best, honestly, in my opinion, if you get either of the 2, you're going to be fine. I have a personal opinion, which I'll say as soon as we finish wrapping these guys up. But Robert, a solid option. 19.3 seconds to kill on a Wolverine, 12.8 on a Cyclops, and 18.2 on a Nightingale. He has a good rate of fire, good attack, very consistent, sitting at 16 health with 5 shield and 11 health. Just overall, for 170 energy, good package. You can't be upset when you're getting them.
Yeah, and I feel like he's very reminiscent of Alice that we saw when the game first launched, and just that kind of consistent damage on the big chain gun style of like detached turret type of weapon. Your third option is the awesome young lady in the middle, August, Spartan 099. She has that fancy railgun. She is going to be a different kind of damage dealing unit than like Robert. So Robert is that kind of steady, consistent damage, throwing out a ton of different projectiles. August is going to shoot that railgun, which you know anything about those, it's going to be chunk damage. She's going to charge it up, shoot it, recharge, reload, pardon me, charge it up, shoot it. And that's going to be good plink damage, but she is probably my favorite of the three in Omega Team. She is very consistent. 16.8 seconds on a Wolverine, which is much faster than Robert and much, much faster than Leon. 13.3 seconds on a Cyclops, which is about half a second slower than Robert, and just probably about another half a second slower than Leon. So she is definitely the slowest to kill infantry, but then she also has 15 seconds on a Nightingale, which is a full 3 seconds faster than Robert.
Yeah, she's my preferred. I'm going to be honest with you. If you call her in or you use the starting army and you get her, just pat yourself on the back. You're going to have a good day. And honestly, we were looking at it, and again, while Robert has very consistent damage, her chunk damage, I mean, it's not like it's taking forever. Her chunk damage, the damage she deals with each shot is just, it's so much better, in my opinion. And I think you'll see her tear through, especially early game single fights. Uh, Robert might be better kind of into the mid game and the late game when he might be able to target through a couple different units, quickly be able to shift damage from one point to another. So there's definitely some situations, but as far as a pure factual standpoint, August is the number one winner in my book. But again, if you get Robert or August, you're doing all right. If you get Leon, I'm sorry for you, but just remember, all three have the hijack ability. So that's the other thing to kind of key in on. If you do get Leon and you come up against an air unit, don't be afraid to go snag it. That's going to be a good way to be able to kind of take it out without actually having to attack it. Now, interestingly enough, all three of these, we did run them against Douglas. They didn't stand a chance, actually. They held their own. They did some decent damage. I want to say they got him down to about half health, but they couldn't kill him. And we were kind of talking about that at 170 energy. I'm okay with that. They shouldn't be as good as the other hero units or the specific leaders. They should be pretty close because they are Omega Team, but at the same time, for the energy cost, for the damage that you're getting from them, I think they're very well positioned and honestly very well balanced with how they set up.
Yeah, and I would agree with that because at 170 energy, if you look at your three Spartans that started this game before the DLC started coming out, they're 50, 60, and 70 energy below what those Spartans are. So that makes sense that they shouldn't be able to go up in a toe-to-toe fight and win. So I mean that just screams balance to me. And I'm glad you brought that point up, like with Leon, as far as like the hijack ability. They still have that ability. It's still super effective, but that can be kind of a way to kind of counteract some of those weaknesses. And I talked about in my deck build for Jerome, kind of the gambling mentality of when you get Omega Team, especially if you use the special operations starting army.
Hint, hint, go look at that video if you haven't already. Anyways, shameless plug for us. We'll hop over into Commander Jerome. Now, part of me really wishes we would have done this before the balance updates, but I'm really glad we did it after. Because Commander Jerome, even in Blitz, is not, in my opinion, what he used to be. Interestingly enough, when we ran him, we tried to initially run him against where he was in the Mantis himself, kind of having that protection, and then we decided, we're going to also, we would run it without. We decided the first person we're going to put him up against is Douglas. We love to see how the hero units fight against each other. And inside the Mantis, he absolutely got crushed. The thing in Blitz that really hurts Jerome here is he has that same effect where if he's in the Mantis and it dies, he loses his shield and even a little bit of health. So we put him in there. We went up against Douglas. Douglas absolutely smashed the Mantis because it only has 6 health bars, 4 shield, and 2 health. So it makes it super squishy. Then Jerome was out on the ground and Douglas just tore him apart. So from that point on, we just decided we would run them separately. And in my opinion, that's the way you got to run them. You got to keep Jerome outside of the Mantis, let him do the damage, let the Mantis do the damage, let units honestly focus on either one of them instead of having a single target, I think is really smart. And the damage here it's actually there when you do that. So we're looking at 6.3 seconds for a Wolverine, 3.7 for a Cyclops, which is just brutal. 6.5 for the Nightingale, and then he was able to take out Douglas in 20 seconds, which is a very, very good, comparable to even the other heroes, is very, very solid. And I think it really goes back to, again, essentially you're having 2 units for the single, card cost of 240 energy attacking, and it's really awesome. I think he has a Hydra launcher, is that right? It's super good.
That's correct.
It is super good. And Jerome actually has a pretty good amount of health himself. 13 total, 5 shield, and 8 health. So overall, even if you do lose the Mantis, if it's kind of in the forefront, you still have him back there, and he's a really solid unit himself.
Yeah, and I mean having him outside of that Mantis, like you said, being so key. I mean, the Mantis has rockets and shoots lasers, and Jerome has the Hydra launcher. And I mean, just go. I want to highlight those numbers again: 6.3 on a Wolverine, 3.7 on a Cyclops, and 6.5 on a Nightingale. It's insane. Keep him out of that Mantis. Let them roll together with that rally ability, and this thing just shreds units.
And very well balanced, in my opinion, at 240 energy. That's what we saw the Arbiter at. I feel like you get a very comparable, hero unit for these two. And I mean, you gotta love the Command Mantis. It's super cool looking. Art style is awesome. But again, a solid leader. But I do think, again, the Mantis specifically, I think they made a little bit more squishy after this recent balance change, which again, I understand the multiplayer side of it. It was really dominating the meta, so it's good that they changed it. It's just something to be cognizant of and aware when you use this guy in your Blitz deck, which I feel like a lot of people will. But really solid. And we also can't forget, I want to highlight on Rally. Rally is one of those abilities, if you use correctly, and you can get your groups, your units grouped up and keep them together, Rally is really, really solid too. So keep that in mind with him. Really quick, we'll just kind of highlight some of the leader powers here. Most specifically, I'm a fan of Enduring Salvo. Pretty good damage, really, really large AoE actually, and at 80 energy, in my opinion, pretty comparable to Plasma Bolt, to be honest. Obviously a different kind of type of power, although still direct damage dealing. This is just a large area effect instead of a kind of a more pinpoint shot. Longer to call this in, but really I am happy with this. I know people, I saw a lot of comments about this power is really stupid. He's literally just dropping pieces of a ship onto the ground. Like, whoa, yay. But for the energy cost for this card, especially against some of the more, infantry focused, lots of smaller spam type units, this does exactly what you need it to do.
Yeah, and it's a big swath of damage too. And it's it's such a big area that if you have a big army coming in to attack, I just go ahead and lay it in front of them, because by the time they see the reticle, it's about, in the front quarter of their army or in the middle of their army, and they ain't getting out of it. I mean, they can start running the other way and then get some units out, but I'm hitting a big portion of your units either way.
Absolutely. Sloth, you want to finish us off? I think the last thing we really have to talk about is the victory turret here.
Victory turret was nice indeed. So we were coming into this with the understanding that it would probably be very comparable to the siege turret that we saw in the last update. Sorta. It's really nice with that rally ability, but it lasts for 2 minutes as opposed to the siege turret lasting 3 minutes. So you trade the rally ability for 1 extra minute on the field. And honestly, the victory turret has so much health, 11 in fact, that I'm okay with that. I mean, I obviously would rather it be around longer, but to be out there for 11 minutes, or be out there for 2 minutes with 11 health, I'm getting stuff mixed up, 2 minutes with 11 health and being spitting out damage and throwing rally ability to all your teammates, this is a really solid card. I'm actually really happy with it.
Yeah, I think that this is another thing. The real key overall for this DLC drop was a balanced perspective for me. And this is just another leader power troop, if you will, that's just really well balanced. you figure with the Siege turret, it makes sense to drop it in, and it have a little bit longer timer because it's not going to be usually it's not going to be shooting the full 3 minutes. This thing, if you drop this in, it's probably going to survive for the full 2 minutes, and more likely than not, it's shooting for almost that entire 2 minutes as well, because you're probably dropping it on a point or in the middle of your army or in the middle of a fight, or in to contest a point. So again, like Sloth said, the 11 health really makes it stick around. It is 120 energy, so that's something to consider. It's definitely the highest of the turrets that we've seen. But the bang that you get for the buck, I really do think, again, another card keep in your deck and absolutely use. And the nice thing I like with this is you can drop this in. You filled up, you housed units into the Mastodon. That thing goes down while this is out, and they're by it. Then all those units are coming out, and they're rallied up. I mean, some of the synergies of Commander Jerome are pretty neat. So I do like this, and it sets up pretty good. So that's a review, guys. That is the cards. That is our unit comparisons. That's what we have for you. So again, the spreadsheet, everything that we've been talking about this whole video, link down below. Go save yourself a copy. Use it when you go to build your decks. That's what it helps us for, and that's why we started doing this. Not only because we're nerds and we like to talk about Halo, but really because we wanted some very comparable things to look at when we go and we try to build our decks. I'm going to be honest, after this post, in the next couple days, I'm probably going to be posting another video of some other deck ideas, maybe more tuned to 1v1s. Based on some of this data with a few of the things that we found, I'll be honest, take this spreadsheet, use it, but also grab a friend, jump into some 1v1s, and do some testing yourself. I think you'd be very surprised to see how single units fight each other, and how they can be comparable to each other, and how some units can really be a lot better in some instances, or with a veteran sniper, not so good. So, Sloth, any additional comments for the group on this?
I mean, that's it. We really like doing these because it's really nice to go back and revisit some of the deck builds that maybe we were even having success with before, but we could have more success if we take some of this stuff into account. So I really like the ability for you to go back and to kind of mess with that and adjust from there. So we hope that's what you guys are getting out of it as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. This has been a little bit of a long one, but we appreciate you sticking around. Again, thank you so very much for all the support. We're slowly and steadily rising up there. So everybody that subscribes, and if you haven't already, please do. Thank you guys really for the support. It's been really awesome. We've been a little bit on a hiatus. Sloth had some awesome things happen in his life recently, so it's been a little bit crazy for our schedule, but we promise we're going to continue the uploads. We'll have more content coming the rest of this week and further on, so stay tuned with us. And again, thank you guys really sincerely for the support. Check out our other unit comparisons where we talk about all the other stuff. So more shameless plugs for our videos. But we got the whole Halo Wars 2 playlist down below. You guys can take a look at that. Again, get yourself in on the spreadsheet. And yeah, so I've been Doc. That's been Sloth. We are the Average Gamer guys. Thank you so much again. Check us out. Subscribe. Do all that great stuff. And we'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.